So no, in conclusion, there wasn't really any discernible reason for Roy to flirt with his mum. But I guess that thing just kind of that's Sarah's kink, I suppose. She's I don't know. She's got some issues. Anyway, 1 hour later. "Are you serious, Sarah?" Sane asked, excited. "It's true, Lynn took her clothes off," Sarah said, dragging Sane with her. What? Then Sane's eyes turned into hearts. "Heaven, here I go," Sane said happily. After running for minutes, Sarah stopped her walk and Sane looked around. But Sarah took this advantage and she hid above a tree. "Huh? Sarah, where'd you go?" "Now!" Sarah pulled a rope close to her, and a box was above Sane, and the box was containing a lot of women panties that fell above Sane. Okay, what the? Sane said as he looked, his body being buried in the panties. Which is better, this or... Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm not sure about the slightly fetishistic quality that has overwhelmed AuraChannelerChris's work of late. And by of late, I mean circa 2008, 2009. Anyway, "Show yourself, thief!" Eliwood came from nowhere with his sword ready. "Sane, what the hell were you doing stealing those?" "Eliwood is not what it looks like, really," Sane said, trying to explain to Eliwood. Just then, Lynn came from nowhere. As Eliwood... What? Just then, Lynn came from nowhere as Eliwood, and she gasped after finding Sane inside the panties. "Sane, how could you?" she said with clenched fists. "Lynn, wait, let me explain." Where? Let me explain. "I saw everything," Sarah said, appearing from the tree. "Sane was stealing our panties." "What? I'd never do something like that." Who's whatever. You're a womanizer guy. That's enough to hear." Meanwhile, Roy was hiding behind some bushes. "How is this going to help us?" he asked in his mind. "He especially said that Lynn's were beautiful," Sarah said with an accusing finger towards Sane. Ugh. 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 I don't need to hear this shit. I need to hear this vile filth from AuraChannelerChris. You filthy-minded sicko. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yeah. So, they're just flinging false accusations at Sane, and it's working. This is why, vigilante justice is a bad idea. This is why the mob mentality is harmful. I don't know. How was she able to think like that? When Sane noticed, Lynn was surrounded by fire, and she was slowly taking out her sword. "Lynn, please, listen to me." "Not only that, he was about to blame Eliwood too," Sarah said. Then Eliwood was surrounded by the same fire, and he was preparing his sword. "Eliwood, who are you going to listen? That liar, or me?" Sane asked, sweating. Another hour later, Sane was fatally wounded by 2 swords, and he decided to stay away from Sarah for the remaining of the night. Then he thought it was a good idea to fall unconscious in the table, over his plate. "What is wrong with Sir Sane?" Florina asked. "Probably he was doing one of his tries to get a woman's hearts again," a man next to Florina said. He was the same rank as Sane, but the difference was that he's not a womanizer like Sane is, but still he is his best friend. He was wearing a red armor and his hair was orange. "That guy is unbelievable," Urk said while flipping some pages of his book. "I think Sir Kent is right," Florina said, revealing the name of the man close to her. Sir Will, is something wrong? She asked to a man close to Kent. He was an archer like Rebecca. He was wearing blue clothes, his hair was brown, a shoulder pad on his left shoulder protecting his chest in the area of the heart, a blue glove on his left hand and a light brown glove on his right hand, white pants, a belt with an arrow holder with arrows, and brown boots. Think you'll find it's called a quiver, actually. Okay, that's about Caelin Castle. We're going to attack in the morning, right? Will asked. Yeah, like Eliwood planned, Urk said. So? Rebecca appeared from behind Will. I'm worried about Lucius. I heard he was imprisoned inside the castle along with Priscilla's brother. Well, Priscilla told me that his brother is Lucius's lord since childhood, Kent said, trying to wake up sane. My point is, we need to rescue them before we can take back the castle. Coming from the forest, Roy and Sarah were shown a little exhausted. Phew, that was close, Roy said. I told you to fire the arrow at Hector, not Lynn, Sarah saned angrily. And for worsening up, you fired the arrow towards the castle. How do you know the arrow actually made it to the castle? I know, because you broke a window. Stop arguing. At least Ellie would appear again without us telling him to protect Lynn, Roy said, sighing. Well, you're right. I think we can continue this until tomorrow. I'm so exhausted right now. Let's call it a night then, Roy suggested. Let's do that, Sarah said, smiling a bit. The next morning, the whole group was shown preparing for the attack against the castle behind a huge hill. Okay, here goes nothing. I'll see if my sword's skills were improved last night, Chris said, nodding at his sword. Behind Chris, Marth was looking at the army of Lynn and Eliwood preparing for the attack, until he found Florina riding a Pegasus. Fucking, oh wow, okay. I thought it was just sort of like regular-ass medieval fantasy. I didn't realize they had mythological elements in it as well. Okay. Florina, are you a Pegasus knight? Marth asked. Yes, it's because of my sisters that are also Pegasus knights. Nepotism. They're more skilled than me, but I work hard to be of use to this army. I see. It's remarkable to see someone as young as her to be able to ride a Pegasus, Marth said and thought. Roy was taking out his sword and he looked at Eliwood. What is it? Eliwood asked. It's nothing. It's just that I want to see you in battle fight, Eliwood, Roy said, sweating a little. Well, I want to see you too. Really? Eliwood nodded. Every time a new recruit joins us, I always want to see their abilities, skills, and development in battle. Roy blinked. I think it's a good strategy to know about your comrades. Eliwood laughed heartily. You shall see more of that after you have your own army. Roy was now sweating more. Yeah. Thing is, I have an army already. Is everyone ready? Lynn shouted to have the attention of everyone. Various statements of agreement were heard. Our plan for today is to take back Caelin Castle and rescue Lucius from the enemy inside. If you find the leader of the group inside, don't hesitate to kill him. Chris gulped. Well, I have to kill people in this mission. You probably done that already, to be honest. I mean, you know. It's been a while since Lucario's murdered anyone. That's just occurred to me, really. I mean, at the start of the story, he was sort of, I remember it was like part 20 or something. It was already at that point, he was just viciously fucking tearing people to shreds. And he hasn't really, he's sort of, AuraChannelerChris has sort of dropped that aspect of his personality, which is probably for the best, but nonetheless, it's slightly odd. Guess we just caught him on an off day is all, to quote Jenny Nicholson. Nothing like a good morning to fight against an army with companions alongside me, Marth thought. This day I'm going to make my father to love my mother, or else I'll disappear for good. Wait, Roy was thinking inside his mind, but he saw Sarah looking at him. Sarah? Roy, our plans aren't finished yet. We have to clear our plans this day, since we're going to attack the castle, Sarah said in a serious tone. All right, but tell me when you have one, got it? Affirmative, Sarah said, excited. Lynn turned to see the top of the hill, and she pointed the top with her sword, and she yelled, Attack! Attack. Oh, it's a song. Fuck you. A huge war cry was heard, and every men, woman, and horses... It's quite a grouping. Men, women, and horses were running... Men, women, and horses, for that matter, actually, were running towards the castle, ready to start their plan. Caelin Castle, Terrace. Huh? Sir? What is it? Look over there! An assault? Alert the commander now! Roger! Prison. Looks like they started, a monk inside a cell said. Hey you! Shut up and stay there without moving, a guard shouted from outside the cell. Who are these people? Only time will tell. Preview of the next chapter. How are we going to convince Eliwood to fall in love with Lynn while we're fighting, Sarah? Don't worry, I have everything planned right now. Care to share information with me? Geez, you're asking something again like the last preview. But I can't help it, I need to know. Next time, Roy and Eliwood. Oh no, you're not going to escape now. Runs away. Darn it, runs away. Do you want to save your data? Yes. Overwrite file? Yes. Caelin Kingdom. Chris is there. Chris highlighted. Lucario, Piju not highlighted. Roy highlighted. Mewtwo, Pikachu, Jigglypuff, Pet, Ice Climbers, Fox, Falco, Nest not highlighted. Marth, Lynn, Eliwood, Hector, Sarah, Florina, Guy, Sane, Rebecca, Marcus, Lowen, Barter, Dorcas, Matthew, Merlinus, Will, Oswin, Priscilla, question mark. Fuck, alright. Okay, authors, no, I'll tell you what, it'd be quite funny if Roy and Sarah ended up falling in love through their actions of trying to matchmake Eliwood and Lynn. It would be like a Hollywood rom-com or something. Anyway, author's note. Wow, the current character list grew so much in this chapter, but you know they're not going to follow them. And maybe you have noticed that I added some characters that didn't even appear. Well, they will appear in some way in the next chapter. Also, I know I forgot to add the "Do you want to save your data" part in the last chapter. That was replaced just now. I sometimes overwrite some chapters of some errors, if you wondered. Smiley face. Read and review, please. I have the hope to reach 100 reviews before the 100th chapter, after all. One question if you're going to review. How do you imagine Master Hands and Crazy Hands voices in the fanfics? Well, now you know, AuraChannelerChris. If you've watched any of this, you already know how I imagine their voices, so there you go. Oh, and Roy is so gonna get it at the end of the arc, if you know what I'm talking about. XD! No, I don't. What are my Amazon adverts this time? I have Big Little Lies with Nicole Kidman, Reese Witherspoon, and Shailene Woodley. I haven't seen it. Heard it was good though. And the Francois Truffaut collection. I've only seen Jules and Jim and 400 Blows, but I'm sure the rest are really good. I've heard wonderful things about Thierry la pianiste.